when it comes to defending your geocentric beliefs, I want to give you a couple of tips and hints on how to do that properly and how to do it appropriately, and how to shut up any heliocentrists when they come along saying you need to prove this, you need to prove that, you don't even have a model. Okay, so this is how you respond to these people. Now, the reason why we don't have a model, rather we just have a map, a sort of basic map that we go on that gives people an idea of the geocentric world that we live in, but it's not a concise map. And the reason why it's not a concise map is because we've never went beyond 60th parallel south of the equatorial plane. We're not allowed. It's called the Antarctic Treaty. Now, when people say, but you can take holidays to Antarctica. Yes, you can take a trip and you need permission, and you're just on a peninsula, a piece of ice, where they show you a few penguins and a pole stuck in the middle of the ground saying, this is the South Pole. That's all that really is. That's like me saying that I visited all of America when I only went to a peninsula called Florida. Okay? That's really, really what it is, because you're not allowed to go around the supposed Antarctic to investigate for yourself. You're not allowed to do any independent travel or any independent investigation of the Antarctic because of the Antarctic Treaty. There's military there that will stop you and turn you around and say no. So that's the first part of the argument. You need to understand more about the Antarctic Treaty. And just for the sake of repeating myself, we're not allowed to go beyond 60th parallel south of the equatorial plane. So we don't know what's out there. So we're being intellectually honest when we say we haven't got a model. But it's not up to us to prove a model, because we can prove plane level, because all flights, all military, all ballistics are based on the assumption that the Earth is flat and non-rotating. And that is for a reason, because it has to be. Because if you try to base these important equations on a heliocentric model, you're going to end up killing people, because it doesn't exist. You cannot fly an airplane around a curve, or you cannot send a missile around a curve ballistically when a curve doesn't exist. You're going to hurt people, especially on the airplane when it takes a nosedive down, trying to follow the curve of the Earth that doesn't exist. So we're being intellectually honest when we say that we don't have a model. And this is the model that you should imply when you are arguing with these people. That door's banging because the window's open. Don't worry, it's a bit warm in here today. So they try to push it up against the wall when they say, prove that you know the Earth is flat, and prove this and prove that, and you don't even have a model. I'll just close this window because that's going to annoy me. Now, this always happens every time I try to do a video when I open the window. Right. So I'm going to give you a couple of hints and tips and tricks now, and hopefully you got that first tip that I tried to give you, okay? In order to be intellectually honest and avoid being intellectually dishonest, you've got to tell them, no, we don't have a model. But you've got to tell them why we don't have a model, because nobody's allowed to independently venture or search or go in pursuit of anything beyond 60th parallel south of the equatorial plane. So the burden of proof is on them to prove that they're on a spinning, wobbling, tilting, oblique spheroid, so to speak. The burden of proof is on them because they're saying that is what we live on. We are saying we live on a flat plane because that's what our senses tell us. When we look at any horizon, any sea level, we can see that it's flat. We cannot feel any motion. We cannot feel any tangential velocity at all. So our senses tell us that it's plane level. The military, all aeronautics and all ballistics use plane level Earth, a non-rotating plane level Earth, as their assumption for their baseline. Now this is also incorporated into the flight dynamics of rigid aircrafts flying over a stationary atmosphere on a flat non-rotating Earth. NASA said themselves, the Russians said, the CIA said, the military said. They all say that the assumption is a flat, non-rotating Earth with a stationary atmosphere and a local sun. So they're telling us themselves. And then people will say, oh, so you're quoting NASA, the people that you're arguing against and the people that you hate. I don't think you understand what declassified means. Declassified means that they used to be classified and now they are declassified for a reason. So it was hidden and now it's not hidden anymore because of scientific public pressure. And what that means is those other scientists in the field that wanted these papers released. So that's why they were declassified. And then NASA tried to backtrack by putting all over Google, oh, it just means it makes it the model easier and everything else and blah, blah, blah. Which is a load of nonsense. because never ever should you use the words flat and non-rotating for a so-called heliocentric model, ever. So they're just backtracking because they were caught, okay? It's a little bit like the mouse that was on the rocket, the whatever mission that was there a few years ago, and there was a mouse on this rocket flying around at 17,000 miles an hour in a vacuum with no wind resistance and no oxygen, but it's somehow running around like unaffected. And then they backtracked on that and says, no, it's not, it wasn't, it was a piece of ice, a piece of frozen something or other. And you can clearly see the mouse running out and then running back again. So these people tell lies all the time. And what happens to liars when you catch them out? They backtrack, they try to make excuses. So this is merely what NASA have done. In their declassified documents, and not just NASA, the military as well, the Russian military, the CIA, all say a flat and unrotating Earth, but then backtrack when they were caught on it. So that really is what all that is. So we cannot travel beyond 60th parallel set of the equatorial plane, and that is a fact. And these little holidays that you're allowed to take that cost something like $26,000, whatever, don't quote me on the prices, I'll stick it up on screen here. They cost a lot, and when you get there, it's just a little peninsula of ice that they let you wander around for a couple of days, and they show you some penguins and stuff like that there. And that really, really is it. So people that say that you can travel independently to the South Pole are being intellectually dishonest. And either they haven't researched it properly or they're telling you lies. But it's up to us to figure it out. So when it comes to arguing your point for geocentrism, I'm going to give you an even bigger tool to use. Now that's the first tool I gave you, is to admit, okay, to concede that we don't have a model. Now there is plenty of graphics and there's plenty of models there that have been done by some great people, but they still truly don't prove where we live because of the Antarctic Treaty and because we cannot travel down there and snoop around and have a look ourselves independently. So that's the first tool, to admit that. The second tool is to dismantle their lies, because when you say the onus is on you, the burden of proof is on you, because you're claiming that you live on a spherical, spinning, magic, wobbling ball with curvature and bendy water. They're making a positive claim. So it's up to you to call them out on their positive claim. So we're looking for proof of movement, proof of rotation. They'll try to hit you with Foucault's pendulum and ring laser gyroscopes. But let's dismantle these. Foucault's pendulum doesn't have an independent frame of reference. No matter where they try it, above the equator, below the equator.
A Foucault pendulum is a pendulum with a specially designed pivot, designed so that it can swing back and forth in any direction around the vertical. So that's in contrast to, for example, a grandfather clock, where the pendulum has to swing in a particular plane. Let's imagine that you have a Foucault pendulum and you're at the North Pole of the Earth. When you set the pendulum swinging, you determine a plane in which the pendulum is swinging. And that plane is fixed. So as the Earth rotates underneath the plane of the pendulum swinging. And so if you now go back and imagine that you're standing on the Earth, you see the plane of the pendulum rotate every 24 hours. Now as you go to lower latitudes away from the North Pole, the time that it takes the plane of the pendulum to rotate around lengthens. And in fact, at the equator, the plane doesn't rotate at all. At the latitude of Hanover, it takes 35 hours for the plane to rotate. So if you look at this pendulum here, if we look at it a few minutes from now, we won't even be able to detect that the plane of the pendulum swing has changed.
The precession rate is different at all times. It's not always 15 degrees, and it needs to be given motion in the first place to actually get the pendulum swinging, which, I mean, just goes against the whole principle of the thing. They can't just hang the pendulum from an unindependent frame of reference and let it start swinging itself. And I mean, on top of that, when they use these mechanical gyroscopes, the military use these mechanical gyroscopes, they don't move at all. There's no precession rate at all. There's nothing. They leave them for hours and it just sits there. Nothing happens. And the most important part to remember is the actual apparatus that they use with the pendulum hanging down is not independent of the Earth. It doesn't have an independent frame of reference. It's stuck to the Earth. So they're trying to detect movement on something that's attached to the Earth. It's ridiculous. And to claim that Foucault's pendulum is proof of motion is absolutely absurd, and it would be laughed out of any courtroom. You do not have an independent frame of reference. The ball needs to be put in motion by somebody, and then the precession of 15 degrees is not uniform across all of the experiments that they've done with the Foucault pendulum. Now, they have these big museums where there's a big massive pendulum spinning around, and again it needs to be set in motion, and then it has electrical buffers around the edge to keep it in motion, and everybody pays their dollar to go in here and, oh look there, oh, Foucault's pendulum, the earth is spinning. And again, it's attached to the ceiling. It doesn't have an independent frame of reference. Now, something that would have an independent frame of reference would be a drone or a hot air balloon. And we've proven, again, from our standpoint, that there is no motion in the air, because all you have to do is just send up a drone, leave it up there for a few hours, let the earth spin around, and then land again, and then calculate the distance. And you could say, oh, okay, you know, the earth is moving, evidently, but it's not. And in regards to the ring laser gyroscopes, that's another bigger joke, because all they're picking up there is the light from the ether. So it's the shell that's moving, it's the ether that's moving, and that's what that picks up. So you've got them on both of these ridiculous claims. Okay, so just to support what I'm saying here, I'm going to go through some famous people, some famous scientists, physicists and astrophysicists, Einstein included, and we're going to go through what they say about the movement of the earth. Some of these quotes are hard to understand, especially for people coming along just to this video now and it's sort of smacking them in the face with it. So just to give you a basic understanding of what all these people are saying. They're saying, especially Einstein, he says, I've come to the conclusion that there's no terrestrial or optical experiment that we could ever use that would prove the motion of the earth. And that was Einstein himself. But at the end of the quote he says, but the earth is rotating around the sun. So that's like me saying there's no such thing as Santa Claus, and there's no way we could ever prove that Santa Claus exists. But he does exist. So that's what Einstein is saying. At the end he says, but we know that the earth is spinning around the sun. No, Einstein, I'm sorry for you, kiddo. We don't know, okay? And why say the first part, there's no terrestrial or optical experiment that we could ever use to prove the rotation of the earth around the sun, and then at the end stipulate, but we know that this happens. Okay, so that's ridiculous. So basically, I'm going to show you a load of quotes here from scientists, physicists, astrophysicists, and the whole shebang, from past to present, all saying the same thing. There is no way to tell that the earth is in motion at all. These quotes are all going to be a little bit sporadic because I didn't organize them. I'm just putting them up as I see them coming up. So you're going to get one from Einstein and a few other people, then another one from Einstein, and then one from Stephen Hawking, then a few people, and then another one from Stephen Hawking. I haven't really arranged these out properly, so you need to forgive me for that, but you'll get the idea on what they're all saying. So we'll start with Darcy Pettyhoff from the Royal Air Force College. One can of course believe anything one likes, as long as the consequences of that belief are trivial. But when survival depends on belief, then it matters that belief corresponds to manifest reality. We therefore teach navigators that the stars are fixed to the celestial sphere, which is centered on a fixed earth, and around which it rotates in accordance with the laws clearly deductible from common sense observation. The sun and moon move across the inner surface of the sphere, and hence, perforce, go around the earth. This means that the students of navigation must unlearn a lot of confused dogma they learnt in school. Most of them find this remarkably easy because dogma is as may be, but the real world is as we perceive it to be. If Andrew Hill will look at the Journal of Navigation, he will find that the earth is centered. The universe is alive as well. This is Darcy Pettyhoff, Royal Air Force College, Cranwell, Lancashire, England, New Scientist, 1979. So basically he's saying you can believe anything you want, but when it comes to the safety of people, we have to assume that the earth is stationary and that everything moves around the earth for safety of people. You can imagine anything you want, but for the safety, and that's what that quote says. Okay, so this is Martin Gardner, the relativity explosion. One could just as legitimately assume that the earth is to be fixed and the entire universe, with its great spherical cloud of black body radiation, to be moving. The equations are the same. Indeed, from the standpoint of relativity, the choice of the reference frame is absurdity. Naturally, it is simpler to assume the universe is fixed and the earth moving than the other way around. but the two ways of talking about the Earth's relative motion are the two ways of saying the same thing: the relativity explosion. So this is an MIT professor of physics, Derek Tegmark. We found something very bizarre. There is some extra, so far unexplained structure in the CBM, cosmic microwave background. We have expected that the microwave background would be truly isotopic, with no preferred direction in space, but that may not be the case. The octopole and the quadrupole components are arranged in a straight line across the sky, along a kind of cosmic equator. That's weird. We don't think that this is due to foreground contamination. It could be telling us something about the shape of space on the largest scale. We did not expect this, and yet we cannot explain it. And that's Dr. Tegmark, MIT professor of physics. So basically what he's saying there is that we're told that the universe is random and there's just solar systems everywhere pointing in all directions. But the studies show that it's from Earth perspective that we can see everything in parallel lines. It's as if everything is emanating away from Earth, that we are the center. So that's what that basically is saying. It overrides people saying that it's just random chaos out there. It's not. It's like Earth is a fixed point and everything is parallel away from Earth. So this is what he's explaining. Studies of the cosmic background radiation have confirmed that the isotropy of the radiation, or its complete uniformity in all directions if the universe possesses a center. We must be very close to it, otherwise excessive observational antistrophy, bear with me here guys, some of these words I just can't pronounce, and the radiation intensity would be produced, and we would detect more radiation from the direction than from the opposite direction. Joseph Silk, University of California, The Big Bang, Creation of Evolution. So again, he's saying the same thing as the last guy, that we seem to be at the center of everything. We now have increasing direct evidence that the dark matter does not exist in galaxies. Then it is unlikely that some of the dark matter is hidden somewhere else in the universe. Therefore, the widely accepted CBM, cosmic microwave background, cosmology is in difficulty. For this reason, it is worthwhile to reconsider the expansion of the universe by starting from scratch. Our result has the merit that it does not contain hypothetical stuff. Inhomogeneous cosmology is the cosmic rest frame. Gunther Scharf, Institution, Switzerland. So he's supporting the last two guys, saying that we need to reconsider the expansion of the universe because we cannot see it, it cannot be detected. Everything seems to be smaller than what we've been told, and the Earth seems to be central. According to the standard coordinates model of cosmology, over 95% of the energy content of the universe is extraordinary dark matter, or dark energy, whose existence has been inferred from the failure of the standard model of particle physics plus general relativity to describe the behavior of astrophysical systems larger than the stellar cluster. While the very homogeneity and isotropy inhomogeneity of the universe owe to the influence of an inflation field whose particle physics identify as completely mysterious even after decades of theorizing. Testing the cosmological principles should be one of the key goals of modern observational cosmology. Large Angle Anomalies in the CMB by Craig J. Copey, Dragan Hutter, Dominic J. Swartz, and Glenn D. Starkman. So another four saying pretty much the same thing. So they're dismantling the lies that we've been told about a never-expanding universe, about a Big Bang, about cosmic background radiation, red shift, blue shift. It's all theorized, they're basically saying. And from the indications of the observations that they've all made is that the Earth is central in the so-called cosmic paradigm. So if the Earth is at rest and relative to the ether, then it alone is at rest. That makes us pretty special. Do you really want to return to the parochial pre-Copernican ideas? Do you really think you and your planet are so special that in all the rich vastness of the universe you alone can claim to be at rest? Physicist Richard Wolfson. And what he's saying there is, don't believe it. Don't believe that you're special. Don't believe that you're central. God tells us that we're central to his creation. But he's saying, you don't want to be believing that. And let me explain about Copernicus. He was a 33rd degree Freemason Jesuit. And he was telling you that you're not on a stationary plane, that you're not important, that you're a little speck, an insignificant speck in a vast universe. So a lot of scientists at the time disagreed with him. And they says, you're wrong about that there. They says there's no parallax between, there's no parallax when we look at the stars, they're in a fixed position. And he says, oh yeah, that's because they're so far away. So then they says, no, you're wrong, because if they were so far away, then we wouldn't be able to see them. And he says, no, they are really far away, but they're massive. And because they're so big, that's why we can see them, but there's no parallax. How did he know any of this? 33rd degree Freemason Jesuit telling people stuff that he cannot prove. And a lot of other scientists argued against him. So that's just to give you an idea of what Copernicus was teaching. The Copernicus principle, or whatever he wants to call it. Why would you believe anything that these Freemason Jesuit priests have to tell you? I mean, it was a Freemason Jesuit priest that said about the Big Bang. Nothing exploded and created everything. And now we're just here, unintelligently designed, but we're intelligent. So that was just a little bit of insight on Copernicus. Right, so the Copernicus principle states that humans are not privileged observers of the universe, and provides our philosophical basis for assuming that on the largest scales the universe is spatially homogeneous. While it is one of the foundational aspects of modern cosmology, the assumption remains untested, outside of the standard paradigm. Though it may seem pedantic to test something so obvious, the standard paradigm itself is built on shaky foundations, relying on an unexplained, gravitationally repulsive dark energy component for observations to fit the model. The implications of this cannot be overstated. Assuming that the laws of physics do not apply equally everywhere in the universe, the only non-Copernican configuration possible is one in which we live in a place that originates from special initial conditions. Testing the Copernican principle by constraining spatial homogeneity. Wessel of Valkenburg from the Institute of Lorentz for Theoretical Physics. So again, he's saying that there's no way to prove that we're not in a special place. To observe everything around us, everything is around us as opposed to us being in the middle of a vast somethingness. They're all basically debunking, dark matter and magical gravity and magical universe. They're all saying that we live in a special place that almost seems as though it was designed this way, like a big gigantic clock with intelligence put behind it. So this seems to be what they're all saying. Now guys, bear with me, I'm going to get to the juicy stuff. I have to be thorough. I have to be thorough in what I'm telling you here, and what these physicists and astrophysicists and scientists are all saying. They're all saying that to postulate that we live in a vast universe and we're just a little insignificant speck, it's ridiculous. Because everything seems to gear towards it being a centered creation, centralized with everything around us. So we're going to get to the meat and bones of this very, very soon. I just need to bring you through a few more of these quotes just to really hammer it home. So it's not just one person said it, that a lot of people are saying it. And of course, these people don't get the mainstream aired, like on the mainstream the scientific academic field. Because they're going against the grain, they're going against what all these other Fruit Loops have said. Oh no, you're not, the earth isn't this and it's not that. This is what we think it is, without any proof at all. And the glue that holds everything together, the glue that holds all of their theories together is gravity and dark matter. This magically, it must be something that we can't see or test holding this all in line for us, Although dark energy may seem a bit contrived to some, the Oxford theorists are proposing an even more outrageous alternative. They point out that it is possible that we simply live in a very special place, the universe, specifically we're in a huge void where the density of matter is particularly low. The suggestion flies in the face of the Copernican principle, which is one of the most useful and widely held tenets in physics. Copernicus was among the first scientists to argue that we're not in a special place in the universe, and that any theory that suggests that we are special is most likely wrong. The principle led directly to the replacement of the Earth, centered concept of the solar system, which is more elegant sun-created model. Dark energy may seem like a stretch, but it is consistent with the venerable Copernican principle. The proposal that we live in a special place in the universe, on the other hand, is likely to shock many scientists. American Physical Society Dark Energy. It's merely an illusion. It is shown that the cosmological interpretation of the redshift in the spectra of quasars leads to yet another paradoxical result, namely that the Earth is the centre of the universe. Y.P. Farshini, the redshift hypothesis for quasars is the Earth is at the centre of the universe. Astrophysics and space science. The data were almost unbelievable. There was only one other possible conclusion to draw, that the Earth was at rest. Bernard Jaffe, Michelson and the speed of light. The Michelson-Morley experiment has thus failed to detect our motion through the ether, because the effect looked for, the delay of one of the light waves, is exactly compensated by an automatic contraction of the matter forming the apparatus. Sir Arthur Eddington, Space-Time and Gravitation. So he's talking about the Michelson-Morley experiment, where they sent out the two lights and they had the mirror in the middle and two other mirrors. And basically, if the Earth was in motion, there should have been a delay between the two lights coming back to the receiver. So you would have had the first light hitting and then the second light's behind it. That didn't happen. They came back pretty much at the exact same time, which proved conclusively that the Earth is not in motion. Then to further save themselves, they come up with the bending of time and space using the Lorentz contraction theory. Again, more theories. Basically what they said was the measuring apparatus shrunk and time slowed down, so that's why there was no fringe shift. You need to Google this for yourself. I don't want to keep this video too long, and I don't want to be going too much into the Michelson-Morley experiment, but they weren't even looking to prove anything about the Earth being flat. They were just trying to see themselves if the Earth had motion, and they detected zero motion. And then that's when Einstein came along with his theory of relativity. It was a plaster to cover up. He says that everything then must be in relative motion. And this is why people believe that the atmosphere is moving around with the Earth and stuff like that. So that explains why airplanes don't need to dip down and so forth and so on. It's all...
That's how sensitive his instruments were.
What did the experiment involve in terms of apparatus, so we can get a concrete understanding of
Well,
what they
if
found?
the Earth is moving around the sun, and we shoot that light beam in the direction that the Earth is moving, okay, and then we shoot another light beam perpendicular to that, well, the one that's in the direction of the Earth's movement should be impeded in some way if it's moving through space, whereas this one that's going perpendicular would not be impeded.
Why not?
Because it's not going through space. It's just going north and south.
Okay.
Okay? And what they found, they expected to have a 30-kilometer difference between these two light beams. There was no difference. So the natural interpretation, and even Einstein admits this, Mach admits this, Born admits this, the natural interpretation is that the Earth isn't moving. So how do we get out of that? Well, you invent special relativity. And now you say, well, the reason that light beam wasn't affected when it went toward the motion of the Earth is because the apparatus shortened.
Huh?
Yeah, Michelson's apparatus shortened as it was going with the Earth in its orbit around the sun.
Wait, you're telling me that the contraction of mass
Yes.
was invented to explain away the results of the Michelson-Morley experiment?
Yes, and that's what my book will tell you. It's been admitted by all the scientists.
Well, isn't there any experimental confirmation that as you approach the speed of light, there's a contraction effect? The impression is that there's all kinds of experimental confirmation.
That was invented. There's no proof to it.
Really?
Yes, all the physicists will tell you there's no proof
Not
to
that
it.
I'm surprised, you understand.
Yeah.
I know what the scientific community is capable of in terms of mass deception. Evolution is a mass deception. But I wasn't aware that they don't really have any even purported scientific confirmation in terms of physical measurement.
No, nobody
of the contraction
measured,
effect.
Nobody measured a contraction. But they put it into a mathematical formula called the Lorentz transform, and it's probably the most famous equation used in physics today.
Does anyone expressly admit that, hey, we had to come up with this contraction effect because otherwise we're stuck with a motion?
Yes, the very guy who invented it.
Tell me what he
Lorentz.
admitted.
Heinrich Lorentz says, I don't have
Okay.
any other explanation to this experiment of Michelson-Morley unless I contract the apparatus. Otherwise, we're going to have to believe the Earth is standing still in space.
Unbelievable.
I have two things to say that might surprise you. First, geocentrism is a valid frame of reference, and the second, heliocentrism is not any more or less correct. astronomer Phil Plait. So he's basically saying that the geocentric model, there's nothing wrong with it, and the heliocentric model, there's nothing wrong with it. He's not saying it's either or, he's just saying that both of them can work. So in an effort to explain the Michelson-Morley experiment, the thought was advanced that the Earth may be stationary. Such an idea was not considered seriously, since it would mean in effect that the Earth was occupied by an omnipotent position in the universe, with all the other heavenly bodies paying homage to the and evolving around it, that Arthur S. Otis, light velocity and relativity. So this is why Einstein, with his theory of special relativity, was hiding the fact that the Michelson-Morley experiment didn't detect any movement at all. Because basically what that would tell us, if it was looked at in an intellectual aspect, would tell us that the Earth does hold a special place, and that everything, the sun, the moon, the stars, are revolving around us. And they couldn't have that, because that would prove then God. That would prove what God says in Genesis. And these Masons don't want that. No. They've got to tell us fairy tales about vast universes and dark matter and spinning magic balls and everything else. The struggle, so violent in the early days of science between the views of Ptolemy and Copernicus, would then be quite meaningless. Either coordinate system could be used with equal justification. The two sentences, the sun is at rest and the earth moves, or the sun moves and the earth is at rest, would simply mean the different conventions concerning two different coordinate systems. Einstein and Infeld, the evolution of physics. There's the starting of Einstein's saying, either model could work, basically. To say that one has superiority over the other one would be wrong. If the redshifts are Doppler shift, the observations as they stand lead to the anomaly of a closed universe, curiously small and dense, and it may be added suspiciously young with Hubble. So the universe is smaller and younger. The Earth is indeed the centre of the universe. The arrangement of quasars on certain spherical shells is only with respect to the Earth. These shells will disappear if viewed from another galaxy or quasar. This means that the cosmological principle will have to go. Also, it implies that the coordinate system fixed to the Earth will be a preferred frame of reference in the universe. Consequently, both the special and general theory of relativity must be abandoned for cosmological purposes. Y.P. Varshney, the redshift hypothesis for quasars is the Earth is the centre of the universe. Astrophysics and space science. We can't feel our motion through space, nor has any physical experiment ever proved that the Earth actually is in motion. Historian Lincoln Barnett. Thus, even now, 3.5 centuries after Galileo, it is still remarkably difficult to say categorically whether the Earth moves. Physicist Julian B. Barbour. I have already known a long time that we do not yet have proof for the system of Copernicus, but I shall not take the risk to be the first one attacking it. Alexander von Humboldt. So he's basically saying, we know Copernicus is wrong, but I'm not going to take the risk in attacking him, because Copernicus was a high Mason. He was a Jesuit. How dare anybody say that he's wrong? Because people were getting killed over this. People were getting called religious zealots and heretics. Very few people went against the narrative. There is no planetary observation by which we on Earth can prove that the Earth is moving in an orbit around the Sun. Physicist Bernard Cohen. Thus, failure of Michelson-Morley to observe different speeds of light at different times of the year suggested that the Earth must be at rest. It was therefore the preferred frame for measuring absolute motion in space. Yet we have known since Galileo that the Earth is not the centre of the universe. Why should it be at rest in space? Physicist Adolf Baker. The easiest explanation was that the Earth was fixed in the ether, and that everything else in the universe moved with respect to the Earth and the ether. Such an idea was not considered seriously, since it would mean in effect that our Earth occupied the omnipotent position in the universe, with all the other heavenly bodies paying homage by moving around it. Physicist James Coleman. So which is real, the Ptolemaic or Copernican system? Although it is not uncommon to say that Copernicus proved Ptolemy wrong. This is not true. One can use either picture as a model of the universe, for our observations of the heavens can be explained by assuming either the Earth or the Sun to be at rest. Physicist Stephen Hawking. It is possible to describe the entire universe using any chosen point at an unmoving centre, the Earth will do very well, and no one can prove that choice is wrong. Scientists today prefer to picture everything in motion and nothing as being in the centre. If you haven't given much thought to the implications of 20th century science, you may be challenged to realise that because of the concept of relative motion, no one can prove that the Earth moves. Kitty Ferguson, science writer. To the question whether or not the motion of the Earth in space can be perceptible in terrestrial experiments, we have already remarked that all attempts of this nature led to a negative result. So they're saying the Earth is not moving. It led to a negative result. Before the theory of relativity was put forward, it was difficult to come to reconcile to the negative result of relativity. The special and general theories cited in Stephen Hawking's a stubbornly persistent illusion. The reason why it was called a stubbornly persistent illusion is because they're pulling their hair out. They cannot detect the motion of the Earth. But yet, all their hypotheses say that the Earth is flying around the universe, around the sun, and the sun is spiraling through the universe. And they're pulling their hair out because they can't sense any of this. Listen guys, we're not just talking about the motion of the Earth, we're talking about the motion of the Earth around the sun, and then the motion of the sun and the Earth and all the other planets flying through the universe. They cannot detect it, ever. They're pulling their hair out. That's why Stephen Hawking says the stubbornly persistent illusion. It's just an illusion. All of it is just fairy tales. So the whole premise for all of their theories, Pythagorean theories, Copernicus, most recently Einstein, it's basically to say, no, there is no God. Listen, we don't live in a special place. We live in a vast universe. So it's insignificant in a vast universe. So it's another attempt just basically to hide God. These people are God deniers. These people, in many cases, were Freemasons. And I mean, you can research all this yourself. Pythagoras, for example, he had his own cult of Kabbalistic teachings and mystery school teachings. And he was a Fruit Loop, trying to run around hiding God, telling you that you're not important. We don't hold a special place in the universe. That we just live in a vast universe, and it exploded from a big bang, and you know it was all accidental and stuff like this. So these people, by definition, are anti-God. They reject what God says. Now you'll have people saying, well, you know, what I said at the start of this video, prove you're on a flat earth. And as I said at the start of the video, we don't have a model, but common sense tells us when we look out onto any horizon, be it a sea horizon or just a flat plane, you know, a normal horizon, we see that it's flat. We don't need to prove what our senses tell us. We can see that it's flat. We do not feel any motion. Water always finds level. You'll never see you'll never see a curvature on the horizon at the seaside, or if you're standing on the shoreline or anything like that and you're looking at the sea, you'll never see it curving off, ever. Curve this way or that way. Common sense tells you. But these people have dictated otherwise. They've told you that you live on a spinning ball, flying through the universe, doing all sorts of magic tricks, and the magic that holds that together is time, space, continual, and all this relativity from Einstein and everything else, which we've explored throughout this video, that it was just a plaster. It was just a band-aid to cover up the fact that the Earth is indeed essential to the cosmos around us, to the firmament, to everything that we can see. And it certainly isn't spinning and wobbling and doing all sorts of gymnastics through space. I mean, the glue that holds all of their lives together is magic gravity, and that can be explained by electrostatics. So, listen, I'm trying to keep this video short, guys. We're running into almost 40 minutes. Try to keep it for around about 40-45 minutes. So I'll read you a few more of the quotes. Now I'm going to read you another one that Einstein has already said. You've already seen the quote, but we'll start by him again, and then we'll just read a couple more, just to give you an idea. Listen, guys, don't let these people tell you that we have proven that the Earth is a ball, or we have proven that it is spinning. They haven't. Clearly, they haven't. Nobody has. Nobody has. It's all theoretical. It's theoretical mathematics applied to the plausibility that it could be a ball, to the plausibility that it could be moving around the universe or around the sun or whatever magic they have. It's theoretical. Nobody has actually done on the ground observations of these things happening, but yet we're meant to believe it when all of our senses tell us that it's flat and that it's not moving. That's what our senses tell us. This is why they get you when you're a kid. This is why you get through school. You see the ball in the corner, the magic ball, and your teacher tells you that you're standing this way and this way and this way and this way, and you question it and you go, but how come we don't fall off? Gravity. That's what your teacher tells you. The magic word gravity. They don't even know what it means. Do you know that there's very little known about gravity? There is very little known about gravity. And when it comes to dark matter, they only understand something like 96% of the universe they don't understand. So the other 4% is just what they theorize and tell us, oh, it must be this and oh, it must be that. So you must believe it. We don't want God. We don't want God. So you have to believe that you're an insignificant speck flying around, doing all sorts of magic trickery, and that's just it. And boom, it's been stamped. Einstein said it. Copernicus said it. Pythagoras said it. Everybody said it, so it's true. Well, it's not true. It's nonsense. Nobody's ever proven it. And I would love somebody to prove it. In fact, I would love somebody to show me a physical horizon, an actual physical horizon point where we can say this is where it starts to bend. And I would like somebody to actually show me motion. Show me that we're moving at a tangential velocity of 1,034 miles per hour. Because that's basically what they're saying is happening. And it doesn't happen. It's all trickery, guys. All trickery. Now, I'm not sitting here saying definitely this, definitely that, definitely whatever, because I don't claim a model. I just know that it's not a wobbling, spinning ball flying through the universe, circuiting the sun, and the sun is doing its own little circuit and spinning around. You know? I mean, the supposed motion of the Earth, a tangential velocity of 1034, we don't feel it. And they're saying, yeah, but you know, if you're on a train and all, you don't feel this and you don't feel that. Try sit on the top of the train and see if you can feel anything. Or they say if you're sitting in your car and you're cruising at 70 miles an hour, you don't feel anything. Yeah, open up the sunroof and see what happens. You see, you're inside a closed system, you see. You're inside a car, you're inside a train, an airplane, whatever. You're inside a closed system. They don't claim a closed system. They claim an open system. They claim that Earth is next to a vacuum. But it's gravity. Yeah, okay, gravity. And as I said, there's very little has been discovered about gravity, other than the fact that somebody said that it exists. So therefore, we should believe this somebody. And all these Freemasons, scientists come together and say, no, it's gravity, yeah, no, it's definitely gravity. Yeah, okay, whatever, okay? It cannot be proven. Now, so the whole premise of this video was to let you know that do not let anybody dictate to you that they have done experiments that prove or have proved the motion of the Earth. They haven't. And for anybody to say that they've done experiments that prove the supposed curvature of the Earth, 8 inches per square mile, doesn't happen. Radar works in a straight line. Sonar works in a straight line. All ballistics work in a straight line. All long range snipers don't account for the Coriolis effect. Airplanes don't nose down as they fly around the curvature of the Earth. Everything is based on a flat, non-rotating Earth. It has to be for safety. Okay? Now you can imagine a ball if you want. You can imagine it spinning if you want. That's fine. Fill your boots. Have a great time. But for safety of humanity, for the safety of pilots, for the safety of crew, for the safety of passengers, they have to assume a flat, non-rotating Earth. And every day I have the same argument with people. They say, but it's only an assumption. Yeah, an assumption means literally to take it as real, to take it as true. You need to read a dictionary before you come answering me with these, it's only an assumption. And then another one I get is, it's only a model. Yeah, okay, it's based on a smaller version of what they're actually trying to measure. So yeah, it's a model and it's assumed flat and non-rotating. So therefore it must be a flat, non-rotating Earth. Because if you're trying to do these mathematics based on a heliocentric model, it wouldn't work, because airplanes would go up and then smash down straight into the ground, because they're trying to follow a curve that doesn't exist. Okay, so I'll finish up with a few more quotes. This is Einstein again. I know I probably quoted this at the start of the video, but we'll start with Einstein again. We'll do his quick quote. We'll go through a couple of more quotes and then we'll wrap this up. I have come to believe that the motion of the Earth cannot be detected by any optical experiment. Physicist Albert Einstein. To question whether or not the motion of the Earth in space can be made predictable in the terrestrial experiments, we have already remarked that all attempts of this nature led to a negative result. Before the theory of relativity was put forward, it was difficult to become reconciled with a negative result. So I know I probably said this at the start. I can't remember which ones I read, which ones I didn't read. But basically Einstein's saying it's hard to reconcile with the fact that we don't find motion before I came up with the theory of relativity. So it was a plaster to cover up the fact that the Earth wasn't in motion at all. This conclusion directly contradicts the explanation, which presupposes that the Earth moves. Physicist Albert Michelson. A great deal of research has been carried out concerning the influence of the Earth's movement. The results were always negative. Physicist Henry Poincaré. Don't know if I pronounced that properly or not. We do not have and cannot have any means of discovering whether or not we are carried along in a uniform motion of translation. Physicist Henry Poincaré. Again, I don't know if I pronounced his name properly. Sorry for that big rap. There was just one alternative. The Earth's true velocity through space might happen to have been nil. Physicist Arthur Eddington. Briefly, everything occurs as if the Earth were at rest. Physicist Henrik Lorentz. And we'll just finish up now with one from Newton, Isaac Newton. In order for the Earth to be at rest in the centre of the system of the Sun, planets and comets, there is required both universal gravity and another force in addition that acts on all bodies equally according to the quantity of matter in each of them, and is equal to the opposite to accelerative gravity with which the Earth tends to the Sun. And thus, celestial bodies can move around the Earth at rest, as in the Titanic system. Physicist Isaac Newton. There's hundreds of these guys. The list is endless of all these scientists and physicists and astrophysicists that came forward and said, look, nah, yous are wrong. Yous are wrong. And you can do all the fancy mathematics that you want and create all these fantastic theories, but yous are wrong. Okay, because everything indicates a young Earth and a centralized Earth that's not in motion at all. It's fixed. I mean, the Bible tells us this. The Bible should always be our authority. The Bible should always be the authority in the end. And God says that the Earth is fixed. He says it doesn't move. He talks about the sun and the moon doing their course around the Earth. In Genesis, God talks about the firmament with water above and water below. It's placed in the middle. A rachia, a hard substance, like molten looking glass. And then we look at what Operation Fishbowl was trying to do. They were trying to crack the firmament. They were trying to smash the firmament above. And according to Hillary Clinton, that they've made 100,000 cracks in the firmament and everything else and all. It's mad, but these people know all this stuff.
Although we weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you, it's got about 18 million cracks in it. And the light is shining through like never before, filling us all with the hope and the sure knowledge that the path will be a little easier next time.
They know it all. It's all being hid from you. Because they know that if you discovered where you live, if they know that if you finally find out that you live on a flat, level, plain Earth with a firmament above, then the implications that God created it are staggering, and they don't want people to know that. Because for hundreds of years, they've been trying to tell you that we evolved from pond scum and that we're insignificant in the universe, and there's other life out there. There's the possibility of billions upon billions of planets similar to Earth and other life. So that makes people think, why would God create all this life in the universe and call us special? There's something doesn't smell right about this. And this is why we have atheism. This is why we have people walking away from the teachings of the Bible, walking away from the salvation of God. Because other little snakes have stuck in and says, no, Earth isn't central, Earth isn't special. In fact, Earth is just a little insignificant speck. So this is where all your New Age philosophies come from. This is where your religion of evolution, and yes, I did say religion of evolution because it's another religious aspect. This is a religion. Heliocentricity, it's a religion, along with evolution. They all go hand in hand. They're both designed to keep you away from your creator. Okay guys, as always, God bless you and have a fantastically blessed day.